It all started the day I made a decision. Before that, the story of my life probably just looked like a series of bad decisions. But strangely, those bad choices became a path to the best choice I've ever made. This is the story of my life, and the story of the day, it all changed for the better. I used to live a hellish life. I'd forgotten about love, about compassion, about kindness, and about every emotion that came with those things. I had no way out but death. I was familiar with the deep path of sin. My goal was simple: numb my pain until I die. I was a self-made meth dealer and a club drug user. It ruined all the important relationships in my life. Many people would say they have burnt their bridges unintentionally, but I purposely set mine on fire. I broke my mother's heart during these years, and I was okay with that, because in my mind, my life had an expiration date. This expiration date loomed over everything I did, and it made me not care about anyone. Did I have a horrible home life? No. Was I lacking something? Yes. My parents were divorced when I was 6 years old. I was skilled in the art of manipulation by the age of 12. I was drinking by the age of 13. By age 20, I was a drug addict and a dealer. When I turned 26, I became homeless and an outcast. The next 2 years, I hit rock bottom. Actually, I was dying. But then in 2010, when I was 28 years old, all that changed dramatically. I called it my crucified moment. Why? Because suddenly my life became a living example of what the Bible says happened when someone is transformed. Paul, a guy who wrote a big part of the Bible 2,000 years ago, said, "I've been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. And the life I now live is in the body, and I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me." This is from the part of the Bible called Galatians in chapter 2, verse 20. When I had my crucified moment, those verses became reality for me. I know it sounds strange, but I had an experience with Jesus that crucified or killed off my old drug and alcohol addicted self. My old self stopped living, and Jesus began to live in me. Ever since then, I lived my life by trusting in Jesus. And that one moment changed everything. It was a hot Sunday morning in Central Florida in 2010. I was groaning in pain. I had been on another one of my drinking binges. I ended up passing out in front of a random church. So when I woke up, I called 911. Later at the hospital, a doctor told me I'd probably die if I didn't stop drinking. When I left the hospital, I walked an hour and a half in the wrong direction. I cried out, "Why me, God?" And at this point, I was completely alone. No one else could be seen, the entire street. But suddenly I heard my name called in a loud voice, "Carl!" I was shocked and looked around to find the person who had said my name, but I didn't see anyone. What was going on? Just as I was leaving church, my uncle called. He challenged me to go to Teen Challenge. I started Teen Challenge 3 days later. Something in me was starting to change. I went to church with Teen Challenge that next Sunday, and I remember there were about 30 people that morning listening to a woman of God preach. It was hot, and I was in the second row. I came to realize in this moment that I had no more strength to hustle, to steal, or to beg my way to a new place in life. I was at the end of my road. I was truly hopeless in my current life. That's when it happened. Something inside of me said, "Walk forward." Something inside of me was urging me to respond to the message. It was right then that I surrendered to Jesus and gave him my life. The alcohol, the drug addiction, the manipulation, and all the other garbage came to a glorious end. This was the moment I call my crucified moment, because I chose to let my old life of drugs, alcohol, and control of others die. I chose new life. That's how I became a follower of Jesus. You get the power of Jesus in your life when you experience God's love. Here I was sitting in the church, and I had this overwhelming sense that someone loved me. It was a sense of love that touches you in the deepest part of your heart. This love will overcome my drug addiction, my alcoholism, and I started to see that a person was there for me. He loved me and how much he had given for me. I want to invite you to a fellowship where you can worship God 100%. It's a place where you can experience real transformation on day one. We welcome all people from every culture, every background. Join us at Faith City Church, because if God can change me, He can change you too.